The grand hall of Station Epsilon glittered with lights from 1,000 different worlds. Sung stood near the observation window, watching ships from across the galaxy dock at the massive diplomatic hub. His uniform felt stiff and uncomfortable, but he wore it with the same discipline that had served him during his military years. Now he was an ambassador, though he still felt like a soldier pretending to be a politician. 50 years had passed since humans first met alien life. 50 years of careful negotiations, of proving that Earth deserved a seat at the table. Tonight was supposed to be a celebration. The Galactic Council had finally granted humanity full membership status. Sung should have felt proud, but instead he felt tired. His daughter Wu moved through the crowd with easy confidence. She had inherited his dark eyes but not his caution. Where Sung saw potential threats, Wu saw opportunities for connection. She worked as an cultural liaison, spending her days studying alien customs and building bridges between species. Right now, she was laughing with a tall figure whose chitinous armor reflected the station lights in rainbow patterns. Princess of the Empire stood beside Wu, her 4 arms gesturing animatedly as she spoke. They were in species, powerful and ancient. Their empire controlled a quarter of the known galaxy. Her compound eyes gleamed with intelligence, and her translator device rendered her clicking speech into smooth human languages. Sung had watched their friendship grow over the past 6 months. Wu had been assigned to work with on a cultural exchange program. They spent long hours together, sharing information about their respective civilizations. It seemed like good work, the kind of thing that would help humanity gain acceptance among the older species. Captain Min appeared at Sung's elbow, holding 2 glasses of something blue and fizzing. He offered one to the ambassador. Min commanded the human fleet stationed near the diplomatic hub, and he had known Sung since their academy days. "You look worried," Min said quietly. "I'm always worried," Sung replied. "It's my job." "Fair point, but tonight is going well. No incidents, no insults, no near wars. I call that a victory." Sung allowed himself a small smile. The night is young. Across the hall, Wu was introducing to a group of delegates from various species. Sung couldn't hear what they were saying, but he saw Wu gesture toward with obvious affection. The princess seemed to lean closer to Wu, their body language speaking of intimacy that went beyond professional courtesy. Then Wu said something that made several delegates turn their heads. Their translation devices all chirped at once, processing words in different ways. One delegate, a floating being made of crystalline structures, actually changed color from blue to red. Min's communicator buzzed. He glanced at it and his expression shifted. "Sung, we might have a problem." "What kind of problem?" "The royal ship just dropped out of faster-than-light travel. Queen Ara is here. She wasn't supposed to arrive until next week." Sung's stomach dropped. Queen Ara ruled the empire with absolute authority. She was known for her fierce intelligence and fiercer temper. Her presence here, unannounced, meant something had gone wrong. The grand doors at the far end of the hall opened. Guards in gleaming armor marched through in perfect formation. Behind them came Queen Ara herself. She was larger than her daughter, her chitinous plating marked with silver patterns that denoted royal status. Her 4 arms were crossed in a gesture that Sung had learned meant displeasure. The crowd parted before her like water. Wu saw her mother approaching, and her expression changed from surprise to confusion to worry in rapid succession. Princess stood frozen, her compound eyes locked on her mother. The queen walked straight toward them, her footsteps echoing in the suddenly quiet hall. Sung moved through the crowd, Min following close behind. He needed to reach Wu before whatever was about to happen got worse. Queen Ara stopped in front of the small group. She looked at Wu, then turned her gaze to scan the crowd until she found Sung. Her translator device crackled to life. "Ambassador Sung of Earth," she said, her voice carrying across the silent hall. "I require an explanation." Sung reached the group and gave a respectful bow. "Your Majesty, we are honored by your presence. How may I assist you?" "Your offspring," the Queen said, gesturing at Wu with one of her arms, "has publicly claimed my daughter as a mate bond. This was reported to me by 3 separate delegates within the last hour. Explain this insult immediately." The hall erupted in whispers. Sung felt the blood drain from his face. He looked at Wu, who had gone pale. Princess stepped forward, her arms spread in a placating gesture. "Mother, please, there has been a misunderstanding." "Silence," the Queen commanded and fell quiet. "I am speaking to the human ambassador." Sung's mind raced. He had no idea what Wu had said, but whatever it was, the translation had gone terribly wrong. "Your Majesty, I assure you that any offense was unintentional. My daughter has the greatest respect for Princess and for your empire." "Respect," the Queen's voice rose. "She introduced my daughter to the council delegates as her wife. In culture, such a claim requires formal approval from both families. It requires ancient rituals and sacred vows. To claim someone as mate without permission is to insult their entire bloodline." Wu finally found her voice. "Your Majesty, I didn't mean to cause offense. In human culture, the word I used." "I do not care about human culture," the Queen interrupted. "My daughter is royalty. She cannot be claimed by anyone, especially not by a species that has barely left its own solar system." The insult hung in the air. Sung felt anger flash through him, but he pushed it down. Losing his temper now would only make things worse. Behind him, he could sense Min's hand moving toward his communicator, probably preparing to alert the human fleet. "Queen Ara," Sung said carefully, "I request the opportunity to discuss this matter privately. Whatever has happened, it can be resolved through calm negotiation." "Can it?" The Queen took a step closer. "Your kind has been in the council for mere decades. You know nothing of our ways, our traditions, our honor. Yet your daughter thinks she can simply take what she wants from my family." Princess spoke again, her voice stronger this time. "Mother, Wu did not take anything. You will return to the royal ship," the Queen said to her daughter. "Now." "No." The single word seemed to shock everyone, including the Queen herself. Moved to stand beside Wu, their hands nearly touching. "Mother, I will not leave. Not until you hear the truth." The Queen's compound eyes fixed on her daughter. "You defy me, in front of the entire council." "I stand with the person I love," said quietly. The hall fell into absolute silence. Sung saw understanding dawn across the Queen's face, followed by something that looked like pain, then fury. When she spoke again, her voice was cold and hard. "Ambassador Sung, you have until tomorrow at sunset, station time, to resolve this situation. Either the false bond is annulled and your daughter apologizes before the council, or the Empire will consider this an act of war against our sovereignty." She turned and walked away, her guards following. Called after her, but the Queen did not look back. The doors closed behind her with a sound like thunder. Sung looked at his daughter, at the tears in her eyes and the determination in her stance. Min was already receiving reports on his communicator about warships taking defensive positions around the station. "Wu," Sung said quietly, "I think you need to explain what's going on." Wu took a shaky breath and reached for his hand. "Dad, there's something I need to tell you." The private chambers aboard the human diplomatic vessel Indomitable were designed for comfort, but Sung felt no comfort as he paced across the floor. Through the viewport, he could see the warships holding position around Station Epsilon. Their weapons were not charged, not yet, but the threat was clear. Wu sat on the couch, her hands clasped together. Stood beside her, one of her 4 arms resting protectively on Wu's shoulder. Captain Min leaned against the wall near the door, his arms crossed, his face unreadable. "Talk," Sung said to his daughter. "Tell me everything." Wu looked up at him. Her eyes were red from crying, but her voice was steady. Dad, I love her. I love and she loves me. How long? For months, maybe 5. I'm not sure exactly when friendship became something more. Sung stopped packing and sat down across from them. He rubbed his face with both hands. And the marriage, when did that happen? 3 weeks ago, Wu said quietly. We had a small ceremony with some human friends as witnesses. Nothing official with the council, just a personal commitment between us. Personal? Sung's voice rose despite his efforts to stay calm. Do you understand what you've done? The Empire has a fleet outside. Your personal commitment might start a war. Spoke up her translator, giving her voice a musical quality. Ambassador, please do not blame Wu. I knew what the words meant in human culture. I wanted to be called her wife. The mistake was mine for not telling my mother. The mistake, Min said from his position by the door, was not understanding how your people would react to those words. Wu stood up, her hands clenched into fists. We didn't announce it publicly on purpose. I was talking to some delegates about human customs, and I said she was my wife because that's what she is. I didn't think the translators would turn it into some kind of formal declaration. Sung looked at his daughter and saw himself in her stubbornness. He remembered being young and certain that love could overcome any obstacle. He had felt that way about Wu's mother. The memory hurt, as it always did. Tell me how this started, he said more gently. Help me understand. Wu sat back down and settled beside her. Their hands found each other naturally. You remember when I got assigned to work with on the cultural exchange program? Sung nodded. At first it was just work. We compared notes on biology, on social structures, on art and music. Wanted to understand humans better, and I wanted to learn about the. We spent hours together every day. Wu's expression softened with the memory. She made me laugh. Did you know they have a sense of humor? Most humans don't realize that. They see the armor and the multiple arms and they assume are just warriors. But would make these observations about human behavior that were so clever and funny. His compound eyes seemed to brighten. Wu taught me about human music. I had never understood why humans create sounds for emotional expression. My people communicate through pheromones and body language. But then she played earth music for me, and I felt something I cannot explain in words. She cried, Wu said softly. The first time she heard a symphony, she cried. I didn't even know could cry. That's when I knew she was more than just my assignment. Sung listened as they talked about late nights in research labs, about teaching each other their languages without translators, about sharing meals and stories and dreams. He watched how they looked at each other, how their body language reflected comfort and trust. When did you decide to get married? He asked. 2 months ago, Wu said. We were working late and we started talking about the future, about what would happen when the cultural exchange program ended. The thought of being separated made us both miserable, so we decided we didn't want to be separated. Ever. And you didn't think to tell me, or her mother. Wu looked down at their joined hands. I wanted to tell you, Dad. I almost did so many times, but I was scared. Scared you'd say we were moving too fast. Scared you'd try to stop us. Scared that if we made it official, someone would force us apart. So instead you kept it secret and let your mother find out from gossip, said quietly, speaking to herself as much as to anyone else. I dishonored her without meaning to. Min cleared his throat. I hate to interrupt, but we need to discuss practical matters. Ambassador, the fleet isn't just sitting out there for show. Queen Ara gave us until tomorrow sunset. That's 16 hours. What are you going to do? Sung looked at his daughter, really looked at her. She had grown up so fast. One day she was a child asking questions about the stars. The next she was a woman who had fallen in love with an alien princess. When had that happened? When had he stopped seeing her as his little girl and started seeing her as an adult capable of making her own choices? Wu, he said carefully, do you understand what the Queen is asking? She wants you to say the marriage isn't real, to apologize publicly, to walk away from. I understand. And I won't do it. Wu's voice was firm. Dad, I know this is complicated. I know it's causing problems, but I love her. I'm not going to pretend I don't just because it's inconvenient for galactic politics. This isn't about inconvenience, Sung said. This is about war. The Empire has the power to destroy the human fleet. They could blockade Earth. They could. I know, Wu interrupted. Don't you think I know? I've been studying them for months. I know exactly how powerful they are. But I also know that love matters. Connection matters. Isn't that what humanity is supposed to be good at? Finding common ground. Building relationships across differences. Spoke quietly. Ambassador, I must tell you something. In culture, we form bonds that are deeper than human marriage. When two choose each other, we connect on a psychic level. It is permanent. It cannot be broken without causing severe psychological damage. Sung felt a chill run down his spine. Are you saying you formed this bond with my daughter? I am saying that I have formed my half of the bond. Normally, this would be impossible with a non-psychic species. Humans do not have the biological structures necessary for true bonding, but somehow, Wu has responded. I can feel her presence in my mind, faint but real. I do not understand how this is possible. The room fell silent. Min pushed away from the wall, his expression troubled. Are you telling us that separating you two would hurt you, physically? Not physically, said. But yes, it would cause pain, great pain, and it would grow worse over time. Sung stood up and walked to the viewport. Outside, the stars shone cold and distant. His wife had died 15 years ago, killed in the early days of human contact with alien species. A misunderstanding, they had called it. A tragic accident. He had raised Wu alone after that, determined to keep her safe in a universe that had proven dangerous. Now she had fallen in love with that universe. How could he protect her from that? Dad, Wu said from behind him, I need you to trust me. I need you to believe that this is real. He turned to face her. I do believe it's real. That's what scares me. Then help us, please. You're good at negotiation. You know how to talk to people to find solutions. Help me talk to Queen Ara. Help her understand. Sung looked at his daughter, at the alien princess beside her, at the impossible situation they had created. He thought about what it meant to be human, to love fiercely despite short lives and uncertain futures. He thought about his wife and the years they had together, too brief but precious. All right, he said finally. I'll try, but Wu, you need to understand something. This might not work. The Queen might not listen. And if it comes down to a choice between you and war, I don't know what I'll choose. Wu stood and crossed to him, wrapping her arms around him in a tight hug. I know, Dad. Thank you for trying. As he held his daughter, Sung hoped he wasn't making the biggest mistake of his life. The royal flagship was named Eternal Glory, and it lived up to its name. The ship stretched for miles, its surface decorated with silver patterns that glowed with internal light. Inside, the throne chamber was vast enough to hold 1,000 beings, its walls carved from a single piece of dark stone brought from the Queen Ara sat on her throne, her 4 arms resting on the carved armrests. Around her stood her advisors, military commanders and nobles. They had been arguing for hours. The humans must be punished, said General, his armor marking him as a veteran of many battles. They have insulted our crown. If we allow this, other species will think we are weak. But the princess has feelings for the human, another advisor said. Forcing them apart might cause her psychological harm. Is young, the Queen said coldly. She will recover. What she will not recover from is the shame of having her mother appear weak before the Galactic Council. A communication officer approached and bowed low. Your Majesty, Ambassador Sung requests an audience. He says it is urgent. Let him wait, the Queen said. He can stand outside my ship and think about what his daughter has done. But even as she said it, Ara felt uncertain. She had built her empire on strength, on never showing weakness. When her mate had died in battle 12 years ago, she had not cried in public. She had stood before her people and shown them that a queen could lead alone, could raise a daughter alone, could be strong enough for an entire civilization. Was all she had left of her mate. Those compound eyes, the way she moved, even her laugh, all of it reminded Aura of the one she had loved and lost. She had protected from everything: assassins, political rivals, dangerous missions. She had kept her daughter safe. And now a human, a creature from a species barely out of its own solar system, thought she could simply take away. "Your Majesty," General said, "I have moved our fleet into defensive positions. If the humans attempt anything hostile, we will be ready." "The humans will not attack," Aura said. "They are not that foolish, but they are arrogant. They think because they survived their own world wars and built faster-than-light travel that they understand the galaxy. They understand nothing." Another advisor spoke up, this one older, with wisdom patterns etched into her armor. "Your Majesty, perhaps we should hear what the ambassador has to say. The humans are new to the council, but they have shown themselves to be resourceful, and the princess clearly cares for this Wu." "Cares?" The queen stood from her throne, her voice echoing through the chamber. "My daughter is confused. She has spent too much time with humans, learning their strange ways. They have poisoned her mind with ideas about love and choice and independence. Do not choose their mates based on feelings alone. We consider bloodlines, political alliances, the strength of future offspring." "With respect, Your Majesty," the old advisor said carefully, "you chose your own mate, against your mother's wishes, if I recall correctly." The chamber fell silent. No one spoke of that. No one reminded the queen that she had once tradition for love. Aura's compound eyes fixed on the old advisor. "That was different. My mate was, he understood our ways. This human knows nothing." Before anyone could respond, the doors to the throne chamber burst open. Princess strode in, her armor gleaming, her bearing proud despite the situation. Behind her, guards scrambled to catch up, clearly having failed to stop her. "Mother said, we need to talk." "You should not be here," the queen said. "I ordered you to remain on the station." "And I chose to come anyway," walked forward until she stood at the base of the throne platform. "Just as I chose to bond with Wu, just as I choose now to defend that bond." Murmurs ran through the assembled nobles. The queen descended from her throne, moving to stand face to face with her daughter. They were nearly the same height, though Aura's armor was more ornate. "You embarrass yourself," the queen said quietly. "You embarrass me. You embarrass our entire bloodline." "No, mother. You embarrass yourself by refusing to listen, by treating me like a child who cannot make her own decisions. You are acting like a child, running off with the first alien who shows you kindness, declaring bonds without thought to duty or honor." "I have thought about it." His voice rose to match her mother's. "I have thought about nothing else for months. Do you think this was easy? Do you think I did not struggle with what it would mean, what people would say, what you would think?" The queen turned away, unable to look at her daughter's distress. "You do not understand what you are asking. A bond between and human is impossible. Our biology is not compatible. Your children would be." "There will be no children," said flatly. "We have accepted that, but there will be love. There will be partnership. There will be someone who sees me not as a princess or a political tool, but as myself." Aura whirled back around. "Is that what you think, that I see you only as a tool?" "I think you see me as something precious that must be protected at all costs, even from my own choices." The queen stared at her daughter, feeling something crack inside her chest. When had become so strong? When had she learned to speak with such conviction? "The human will leave you," Aura said, and she hated how her voice shook. "Humans live such short lives, barely a century. You will bond with her, love her, build a life with her, and then she will die. And you will have thousands of years left to live with that pain. I am trying to save you from that." His posture softened. She reached out with one arm, touching her mother's armored shoulder. "Mother, I know you are afraid. I know you miss father. But you cannot protect me from pain by preventing me from living. I am the queen. It is my duty to protect my people, to protect you. Then protect me by supporting me, by accepting that this is what I want, what I need." A communication officer interrupted, bowing low. "Your Majesty, Princess, forgive me, but the Council has convened an emergency session. They are demanding both of you attend. The human ambassador will be there as well." The Queen looked at her daughter, at the determination in her eyes. She thought of her own mate, of the battles they had fought together, of the daughter they had created. She thought of the moment he had died, and how she had wanted to die with him. Only had kept her going, had given her a reason to continue. Now had found her own reason to continue. How could a mother stand against that? "Very well," the Queen said. "We will attend the council session. But understand this. I have given the human ambassador until sunset tomorrow. If we cannot reach an agreement that honors our traditions and protects our people, then this bond must end. That is not negotiable." "Everything is negotiable, Mother. That is what diplomacy means." They walked together toward the throne chamber doors, Queen and Princess, mother and daughter. Behind them, the advisors and generals followed. The Empire was about to face the Galactic Council, and the outcome would change everything. In the council chambers, hundreds of species waited. Some supported believing in the old ways and ancient traditions. Others were curious to see how the humans would handle this crisis. And a very few, wondered if perhaps something new was being born, something that would change the galaxy forever. Ambassador Sung stood in the human delegation area, his uniform pressed and perfect, his expression calm. But inside, his heart raced. He had spent the past few hours preparing for this moment, researching customs, consulting with experts, and talking to his daughter. Now he would have to convince an angry queen that her daughter's happiness was worth more than tradition. That human love, despite its brief duration, was real and powerful and worthy of respect. The council mediator, a floating being of pure energy, spoke in a voice that resonated through every translator in the room. "The council recognizes Queen Ara of the Empire and Ambassador Sung of Earth. You will each present your positions. The council will then deliberate." The Queen stepped forward, her presence commanding attention. "The Empire stands on traditions older than most species in this council. Our bonding rituals are sacred. This human has violated those traditions, has claimed my daughter without permission, without understanding, without honor. We demand that the false bond be annulled and that the human apologize before this assembly." The council chamber erupted in discussion. Some species nodded agreement, others whispered among themselves. Then Sung stepped forward and the chamber fell quiet. He looked at the Queen, then at the assembled species, then spoke. "I would like to tell you a story about what it means to be human." The council mediator had made an unusual decision. After listening to both the Queen's demands and Sung's opening statement, it declared that direct negotiation between the two parties was required. They were given a neutral meditation chamber and 12 hours to reach an agreement. Guards stood outside. Inside, it was just Sung and Queen Ara. The room was designed to be calming, with soft lighting and comfortable seating that could adjust to different species' needs. Neither of them sat down. "So," the Queen said, her forearms crossed, "you wanted to tell me a story about being human. The council gave you that chance. Now we are alone with no audience. Will you still tell me your story?" Sung walked to the window that looked out over the station. "My wife's name was. We met during the contact wars, back when humanity first learned we were not alone in the universe. She was a communications officer. I was a pilot. We fell in love during the worst time in human history." "Why tell me this?" "Because you need to understand what love means to humans. How we experience it differently than your people, but no less deeply. The queen made a sound that the translator rendered as bitter laughter. Love, such a simple word for something that causes so much chaos. You loved your mate, Sung said, turning to face her. Don't tell me you don't understand. My mate was chosen through proper channels. Our bloodlines were compatible. Our union strengthened the empire. Yes, we loved each other, but that love was built on a foundation of tradition and mutual respect for our culture. Sung shook his head. No, you chose him against your mother's wishes. Your advisor mentioned it in your throne room. I did my research, Your Majesty. You tradition for love just like your daughter is doing now. The queen's compound eyes fixed on him, and for a moment he thought she might attack him. But instead, she uncrossed her arms and moved to lean against the wall. That was different. He understood our ways. But your mother didn't approve of him. He was from a lower house. The match was considered beneath you, yet you chose him anyway. Silence stretched between them. Finally, the queen spoke, her voice softer. He died in battle 12 years ago, a raid on our outer colonies. He led the defense personally when he could have sent others. That was who he was, brave, foolish, mine. Died 15 years ago, Sung said quietly. During the contact wars, a misunderstanding with an alien species, wrong translations, wrong assumptions. She was trying to negotiate peace when their ship fired. I had to raise Wu alone after that. The queen looked at him with what might have been understanding. So we are both widowed, both raising daughters alone. Is that supposed to make us allies? It's supposed to make us see each other as people, not just as representatives of our species. You're afraid of losing. I understand that fear. Every day I worry about Wu. But, Your Majesty, we cannot protect our children by locking them away from the universe. I can try. And fail, just like I did. No matter how hard I tried to keep Wu safe, she grew up. She made her own choices. She found someone to love. And now I have to decide whether to support her or lose her. The queen was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice carried pain. Your species lives for such a short time, barely a century if you are lucky. My people live for thousands of years. We'll bond with your daughter, love her, build a life with her, and then Wu will die and we'll have left to grieve. How is that fair to my daughter? Sung moved closer. It isn't fair. Love rarely is, but let me tell you what happened after died. I wanted to stop living. I had lost the person who made life worth living, but I had Wu. She was 5 years old and she needed me, so I kept going. And eventually I found that love doesn't die just because the person does. It stays with you, it shapes you, it makes you stronger. Or it breaks you. Sometimes, but is strong, stronger than you give her credit for. And here's something else you need to understand about humans. We love fiercely precisely because we don't have much time. We can't afford to waste years building up to feelings. When we know, and we commit completely. The queen turned to face him fully. You speak of commitment, but how can I trust that your daughter truly understands what she is promising? She is so young, so inexperienced with other species. She's 26 years old. She has degrees in xenobiology and cultural studies. She has spent the last 6 months studying your people specifically. She knows exactly what she is doing. No, the queen said sharply. She knows facts. She knows data. She does not know what it means to bond with her. Our connections are psychic, permanent, deeper than anything humans can imagine. Are they? Sung pulled out a small and activated it. Your daughter gave this to me before the council session. She asked me to show it to you. He handed the device to the queen. She looked at it, her compound eyes scanning the information. It was a medical report, detailed scans of brain patterns over the past 4 months. What am I looking at? The queen asked. Princess psychic bonding structures, the parts of the brain that form connections with mates. According to this report, began forming a bond 4 months ago. That bond is now nearly complete. That is impossible. Wu is human. She has no psychic ability. Keep reading. The Queen's eyes moved down the report. Sung watched as she reached the important section, saw her entire body go still. This cannot be accurate. 3 different medical experts it. Your daughter has formed a complete bond, and somehow, impossibly, Wu has reciprocated, not through psychic ability but through something else. The doctors don't have a name for it yet, but the connection exists. It shows up in both their neural scans. The Queen sat down heavily, all forearms hanging loose. How is this possible? That's what makes humans special, Your Majesty. We don't have psychic powers. We don't have advanced biology. But we have the ability to form emotional connections so strong that they bridge impossible gaps. Our feelings, our commitment, our love, they're powerful enough to create bonds where none should exist. But the report says if they separate now, it would cause damage, psychological trauma, for both of them. Yes, the bond is already formed. Breaking it would hurt them both badly, maybe permanently. The Queen looked up at him, and for the first time since they had met, Sung saw fear in her eyes. I wanted to protect her. I wanted to keep her safe from mistakes, from pain, from everything that could hurt her. I know, every parent wants that. But we can't protect them from living. And isn't a life with love, even brief love, better than a long life with no connection at all? You speak as if this is settled, as if I should simply accept this and move on. No, Sung said firmly. I speak as someone who understands your position, your right to be concerned, your right to want proper procedures followed. But Your Majesty, your daughter has already made her choice. The bond is already formed. Now you have to decide what matters more, your traditions or your daughter's happiness. The Queen stood and walked to the window. Outside, ships from 100 worlds drifted past. In culture, when a bond forms without proper approval, it is considered invalid. The family can demand it be broken, no matter the cost. And is that what you want? To break your daughter, to cause her pain that might never heal? Of course not. The Queen's voice cracked. But if I accept this, if I allow a human into the royal family, what does that say about our traditions, about our culture? Other species will think we have grown weak. Or they will think you have grown wise, wise enough to recognize that love transcends species, wise enough to adapt tradition to new circumstances. The Queen turned to look at him. You humans are very good at words. Is that another one of your special abilities? Actually, yes. We're excellent at finding common ground through communication. It's how we survived on a planet with thousands of different cultures. We learned to talk, to negotiate, to find compromises. And what compromise do you suggest here? Sung took a breath. This was the moment he had been preparing for. A formal bonding ceremony, combining traditions with human customs, recognition from both families, a public declaration before the council. Give Wu and the approval they should have sought in the first place, but do it now properly with honor. The Queen considered this. And what does your daughter offer in return? What does humanity offer to balance this union? Wu offers her life, her dedication, her complete commitment too. Humanity offers its friendship, its alliance, its unique perspective. We may not live long, Your Majesty, but while we live, we burn bright. We love hard. We fight for what matters. Isn't that worth something? The Queen walked back to where Sung stood. She was taller than him, more powerful, representing an empire that could crush humanity without effort. But in that moment, they were just 2 parents trying to do what was best for their children. If I agree to this, she said slowly, there will be conditions, protocols, ceremonies that must be followed exactly. Your daughter will have to learn our ways, truly learn them, not just read about them. She will, I promise you that. And you, ambassador, you will stand as witness. You will vouch for your daughter's commitment. I will. The Queen extended one of her 4 arms. Sung grasped it, the gesture of agreement. Her chitinous hand was surprisingly warm. Very well, she said. Let us return to the council and announce that we have reached an understanding. and then let us see if your daughter is truly ready for what she has chosen." The council chambers had been transformed for the ceremony. Crystals from the lined the walls, glowing with soft blue light. Human flowers, roses and lilies, were arranged in careful patterns alongside luminescent fungi from gardens. Representatives from every council species filled the viewing areas, curious to witness this unprecedented event. Wu stood in the center of the chamber wearing a mixture of human and ceremonial garments. A traditional Korean hanbok formed the base, deep blue silk embroidered with silver threads. Over this, she wore a bonding vest made of light armor plates, each one etched with symbols of unity. She looked nervous but determined. Across from her, Princess wore similar hybrid attire. Her chitinous armor had been polished until it shone like mirrors, and draped over it was a length of white silk in the human style. Her forearms were decorated with silver bands, each one representing a promise she would make. Sung stood beside his daughter, trying to project calm confidence even though his heart was racing. This was either going to work, or it was going to be the biggest diplomatic disaster in human history. Queen Ara entered from the opposite side, her presence commanding immediate attention. She had chosen to wear her full royal regalia, making it clear that this was an official state ceremony. The assembled crowd fell silent as she took her position beside. The council mediator floated forward, its energy form pulsing with different colors. "We gather today to witness a bonding ceremony between species. This is the first such ceremony in council history. Let all present observe and learn." Ara spoke first, her translator amplifying her voice. "I am Queen Ara, monarch of the empire, speaking for my daughter Princess. In our tradition, a bonding requires the approval and blessing of both families. I was not asked for this blessing. I was not consulted about this union." The crowd murmured. Wu's hand tightened into a fist, but she stayed silent. "However," the queen continued, "I have learned that traditions must sometimes adapt to new truths. My daughter has formed a bond with Wu of Earth. This bond is real, by our own medical experts. It exists not because of our psychic abilities alone, but because of something the humans possess. An emotional intensity that bridges the gap where biology cannot." She turned to look at Wu directly. "Human, you have claimed my daughter as your wife. Do you understand what this means in culture?" Wu took a deep breath and answered in carefully practiced language, her pronunciation perfect. "It means a bond that lasts beyond death. It means putting her needs above my own. It means serving the people as family, not as an outsider. It means accepting that when I die, she will grieve for centuries. I understand all of this, Your Majesty, and I choose it anyway." The queen's compound eyes studied her. "Why? Why would you choose such a burden?" "Because love isn't about avoiding burden," Wu said, switching back to her own language. "It's about sharing it. Because makes me laugh when I'm sad. Because she challenges me to be better. Because when I look at her, I see my future, however long or short it might be. Because she is my home." Made a sound, and Sung realized with shock that the princess was crying. He hadn't known could cry, but there it was, clear fluid running from her compound eyes. The queen looked at her daughter, then back at Wu. "Very well. Then I give my blessing to this union. But know this, human. If you hurt my daughter, if you betray her trust, if you prove unworthy of this bond, the Empire will make you regret it for whatever brief time you have left." "Understood, Your Majesty." Sung stepped forward, speaking clearly. "I am Ambassador Sung, speaking for my daughter Wu. In human tradition, marriage is a choice made by the individuals involved. We do not arrange marriages or force partnerships. We believe that love is something that should be freely given and freely received." He looked at his daughter with pride. "Wu has chosen Princess. She has made this choice with full knowledge of the challenges ahead. As her father, it is my honor to support her decision. As her parent, it is my joy to welcome into our family." He turned to, "Princess, you have brought light into my daughter's life. You have made her happier than I have seen her in years. For that alone, you have my gratitude and my respect. But I want you to know something about humans. We may not live as long as your people. We may not have your psychic abilities or your ancient wisdom. But when we love completely. Wu will give you everything she has for as long as she has it. That is the human way. The council mediator pulsed with golden light. Both families have spoken their approval. Now the individuals must make their vows. Princess, please begin. Turned to face Wu, all four of her arms extending toward the human. When she spoke, her voice was steady despite her tears. Wu, you taught me that the universe is bigger than I imagined. Not in space or size, but in possibility. You showed me that connections can exist where science says they should not. That love can bridge gaps between species, between worlds, between completely different ways of experiencing life. I promise to honor your brief time in this universe. I promise to learn your human ways even as you learn mine. I promise to remember you when you are gone, to carry you with me through the centuries ahead. I promise to love you with everything I am. Wu reached out and took two of his hands in her own. You taught me that being human isn't about how long we live, it's about how deeply we feel. You make every day worth living, every moment worth experiencing. I promise to stand beside you for all my days. I promise to face whatever challenges come, whether from others or from the universe itself. I promise that even when my body fails and my time ends, my love will remain. Because that's what human love is. It doesn't die. It transforms. It becomes memory and inspiration and strength. I promise you this. I will love you until my last breath, and then my love will live on in you. The council mediator's light intensified. In the presence of the Galactic Council, with the blessing of both families, I declare this bond recognized and honored. May it bring strength to both species and understanding to all. The chamber erupted in a mixture of reactions. Some species applauded. Others made their own cultural expressions of approval. A few remained silent, clearly uncomfortable with what they had witnessed. But it was done, official, recognized. Queen Ara stepped forward and did something that shocked everyone. She removed one of her royal bands, a silver circle etched with ancient symbols, and placed it on Wu's wrist. You are family now. When you speak with the authority of the royal house. Use it wisely. Wu bowed deeply, the human gesture of respect. Thank you, Mother. The word hung in the air. Mother. Wu had called the Queen Mother. Ara stood very still, and Sung saw her compound eyes glisten. Yes, the Queen said softly. I suppose I am your mother now. Strange how the universe works. The ceremony concluded with a feast that lasted hours. Representatives from different species came to offer congratulations or curiosity or cautious support. Sung found himself answering questions about human bonding practices, about what love meant to humanity, about how they managed to form such strong connections in such short lives. Captain Min appeared at his elbow, grinning. Well, Ambassador, you managed to avoid starting a war. I'd say that's a successful diplomatic mission. It's not over yet, Sung said, watching Wu and together across the room. They were surrounded by well-wishers, their hands still joined. This is just the beginning. True, but it's a good beginning. Later, much later, when most of the guests had departed, Sung found himself alone with Queen Ara on an observation deck. They stood in comfortable silence, watching the stars. Your daughter called me mother today, Ara said. Does that bother you? I thought it would, but no, it feels right, strange but right. Sung smiled. Welcome to being a parent to humans. We tend to adopt people into our families whether there's biology involved or not. Another one of your strange abilities. The strangest and the best. The Queen was quiet for a moment. Thank you, Ambassador, for helping me see past my fear, for reminding me that love matters more than tradition. Thank you for being brave enough to change. Not all rulers could do that. They watched the stars together, two parents who had found common ground across the vastness of space. 6 months later, Wu and had established a new diplomatic training program. They taught classes on cross-cultural relationships, on forming bonds across species differences, on recognizing that love comes in many forms. The program was wildly popular, with students from dozens of species. Sung received regular reports on their work, but today's message was more personal. It was from Ara. Ambassador, I thought you should know. Wu called me Mom again today without the formal title. She asked if I would teach her how to make the traditional celebration dish for his birthday next month. I found myself saying yes. More than that, I found myself looking forward to it. Perhaps you were right. Perhaps the human way of creating family without biology has merit. Also has been teaching me about human music. I do not understand all of it, but some of it makes me feel things I had forgotten I could feel. Thank you for giving me my daughter back, and for giving me a second daughter I never expected to have. Sung read the message twice, then sent a simple reply. Your Majesty, you are welcome. Also, the human term is mother-in-law, but I think mom works better. And if you're learning about human music, I recommend Ninth Symphony. It's about joy and unity, seems appropriate. He looked out at the stars and thought about humanity's place in the galaxy. They were still new, still learning, still proving themselves. But they had something special. An ability to connect, to love, to build bridges where none had existed before. That evening at a small dinner gathering, Captain Min raised his glass. To Wu and, to impossible bonds, to the human way. To the human way, Sung echoed and drank. Somewhere across the galaxy, in a shared apartment on Station Epsilon, Wu and sat together watching Earth movies. Translator struggled with the jokes, but she laughed anyway, and Wu explained the parts she missed. They had paperwork to file, ceremonies to plan, a universe that still didn't quite understand them. But they had each other. They had family on both sides now. And they had proven that love could exist anywhere between anyone if people were brave enough to try. That was the human way, and it was changing the galaxy, one impossible bond at a time.